Mufasa, you know we finally here, right?
Well,
It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday again, it's Saturday, Sunday. Hey, hey, go, Let's go. What? Hey.
That's right, everyone. It is the weekend. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful, beautiful day today. Bitcoin continuing to just consolidate sideways, but you heard that correctly. The US is looking to potentially have some extraordinary measures when it comes to this current situation. You guys may have seen the US national debt ceiling has officially been hit. How is this going to affect things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? We are going to talk about that. I do want to talk about the Bitcoin price as well, but this could potentially affect everything moving forward, and I definitely think we cannot ignore the situation at hand. How will this affect Bitcoin? Well, that is going to be the biggest question of all, isn't it? But if you guys have not gotten subscribed, get subscribed. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Today's video going to be a little bit shorter than usual. It is the weekend, so I know everybody wants to just get on out of here and have a good time. So let's dive in. Let's have a look at what exactly is happening. So you can see right here, the US government spends far more than it takes. And by the way, we will do the TA at the end of the video. So if you are here for the charts, stick around or just hop to the end of the video. We're going to go over some key levels to pay attention to. But a lot of this spending has happened recently. In fact, it's up 50% since 2020, from about $20 trillion in 2020 to now the level that we're at today, which means that the United States has pretty much spent, or it has at least, I should say, cost them in borrowing about $10 trillion since the beginning of the pandemic. Now, let's talk about this because this is going to affect everybody, especially if you're in the US. So they say if Congress does not raise the debt ceiling in the coming months, things will quickly go south for the economy. Now, this was a warning from Janet Yellen. She said failure to meet the government's obligations would cause irreparable harm to the US economy, the livelihoods of all Americans, and global financial stability. If the federal government defaults on its loans, investors could lose faith in the US dollar, causing the US dollar to weaken, stocks to fall, and triggering job cuts. Now, this would be one of those really strange scenarios where you're like, well, if the DXY is coming down, the dollar's coming down, that means risk assets are going to go up. But would it be different in this scenario because now everyone has completely lost faith in the United States? Now, in all fairness, I can already hear the crowd. Yeah, let's be honest. This isn't the first time that, we've had these emergency types of meetings where, they extend it or, they do a temporary change, right? And the government, they just make up whatever rules they want. They do whatever they want, right? But nevertheless, this is going to create some form of turmoil and controversy. And if we do have, for example, these, unemployment rates start going up, right? Or some of these earnings, for example, even just from these companies, right? We know that Amazon, Apple, for example, still can't get above its previous high. Netflix is down. And we're noticing that consumer spending, although it was pretty high recently, is starting to taper off. People are worried about what could possibly happen. They say even if the debt ceiling is raised, a prolonged fight over it could still cause long-term financial harm. During a particularly vicious debt ceiling battle in 2011, for example, just to point out a time in the past, credit rating agency Standard & Poor's downgraded the U.S. government's credit rating for the first time in history, making it more costly for the U.S. government to borrow money thereafter. So we're going to go into this thread, but the question is, what does that do for Bitcoin? Think about it, right? So weakening dollar, potentially leading into hyperinflation. Now we have stocks falling. We have trust in the government falling. This should be a net positive for Bitcoin, right? This should cause the price of Bitcoin to pump. But could it do some damage in the short term? Let's be realistic. Let's read on. Great post, by the way, from Crypto T. Since they can't borrow more money, the government will be taking money out of the civil service and postal workers' retirement and healthcare funds. Yes, you heard that right. And you can see right here, Treasury warned it would take extraordinary measures because of the debt limit. They're going to take money from employee retirement funds and pay it back if they raise the debt limit. How can they do this? Well, they're the government. They can do whatever they want, right? When they print money, it's fine. When we do it, it's counterfeit, right? But this will only hold off the government for so long because they will completely run out of cash and default on their payments, which is estimated sometime between May and June of this year. So is it possible, and I'm not trying to freak anyone out, could things get worse before they get better? Is the rally that we're seeing now the exit liquidity from the markets, not just Bitcoin, for some of these guys to get that last push and hold on, maybe sit in cash for a little bit until they figure out what's going on here? Could that be? That is the question, because a lot of people have been talking about a Fed pivot. And historically speaking, if you look at the data, Fed pivots are bullish, but they're not bullish immediately. In fact, generally when the Fed does pivot, it's usually because the situation is so bad, so terrible, that they have absolutely no choice. And you tend to actually see stocks crash harder right after the Fed pivot. And then, of course, they recover and, we have like a prosperous multi-year bull run, right? But at this point, we have to pay attention. So most likely, what are they going to do? They're probably just going to raise it or extend it or do something, let's be honest. But, you have President Joe Biden and Democrats demand the limit to be raised without any negotiation. So if the debt limit is not raised, they say that everyone would suffer. They say the two sides might argue and come to some agreement to cut spending, but ultimately they will both agree to raise the debt ceiling to keep the debt Ponzi going, pushing us one step closer to hyperinflation. So this is the ultimate thing we've been saying on this channel, my friends. I personally do not think that the turbulence is over. That's my opinion. I would be happy to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I would love for Bitcoin to just keep going on up. I hold plenty of Bitcoin and I'll be just fine. But the reality is I just don't think it's over yet. I think that I know that everything that they did 6 months ago, we're kind of seeing now. It's a delayed effect, right? So all these rate raises and everything that they've done, yeah, we've seen stocks fall 20%, whatever, crypto down 70%, but keep in mind that this is from things that happened 6 months ago. They're still continuing to raise the rates. So I think that we are having a little bit of a lag when it comes here to the shock of what they're doing now. It's just my opinion, though. What do I know? Things could be different this time. You never know, right? They could just do whatever. They're probably going to raise the rates. And I mean, really just wanted to point out what Horn Harris said. Going back to the Bitcoin cycle, it's freaking nuts. This is what we were saying on the Altcoin Daily channel. I don't know if you saw my interview when I was talking to those guys over at Altcoin Daily. But, I was saying that actually, so far, the cycle is exactly where you would expect it to be. Like everyone's like, but really, I mean, if you look at this is where we are. And if you look at the previous cycles, this is pretty much what you would expect, right? You have about 152 bars here, 52 bars, then another 152, 52, and then another 152 would take us sometime out to, an all-time high for Bitcoin, maybe September, October of 2016. So if you do believe in this 4-year cycle, then we are on track right now. This is the bottom, right? This is where you want to buy. And we're getting ready for the massive, massive boom. But will it be different this time is the question. I would love to hear your opinions. We know at the end of the day what they're going to do, right? Markets are calling their bluff. But is there a possibility that they know that markets are trying to call their bluff and they will remain slightly more hawkish just to prove a point? It's weird, right? Because they do have this history of kind of lying and not going through with it. Are they going to go through with it this time? I don't know. But I do know that if we start seeing stocks rally and cryptos, rally, Powell is not going to want to see that, which sounds really messed up. It sounds like super negative, but it's the truth. They want something to break. They do. They want to have that reset, right? They're not going to outwardly say it. They're not going to outwardly say that they want to hurt the economy short term, but they kind of do, right? I actually heard somebody famously say, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, the only reason that they're raising rates is so that when what hits the fan, they have something to cut, right? because they're not going to go negative. That would be really weird, right? So let me know what you guys think about that. But I do want to talk about some positive news before we get into the charts. This is interesting. So the number of female crypto owners rose from 29% in Q3 to 34% in Q4, while the amount of men who own crypto only went up 1%. So it looks like women are starting to get into the crypto space a little bit more, which is pretty cool, right? Crypto is now the second most widely owned asset class for women after cash, suggesting it is succeeding where traditional financial markets have sometimes failed in bringing more women to the table. So I thought that was kind of a cool little story, right? The fact that it's jumped from 29 to 34% for women is pretty cool. But of course, we still do have this situation. Just before we get into the charts, I do want to remind everyone that Gemini is still having an issue, and Genesis is in fact going bankrupt. And you can see Cameron Winklevoss again. This is a Twitter thread. You know, he says the decision to put Genesis into bankruptcy does not insulate Barry from Digital Currency Group and any of their wrongdoings. They need to hold themselves accountable. We have been preparing to take direct legal action against Barry Digital Currency Group and others who share responsibility for the fraud that has caused harm to 340,000 plus users. So he says, unless Barry and Digital Currency come to their senses and make a fair offer to creditors, we will be filing a lawsuit. And they say that Barry owes them an explanation. Bankruptcy court could provide a much needed form to what happened. So I think that this situation could add a little bit of turmoil to the markets. But as I said, it's not a black swan event, right? We are anticipating this. It could have some ramifications. I do think the worst is over as far as the bad news. I think the only thing that could be worse than what we heard is Binance is insolvent. You know, I mean, because Binance is literally the number one right now. But other than that, I don't think that it would be that crazy of an issue. A lot of the little guys, you know, they've been doing a lot of proof of reserves, OKX, Kraken, really great. You know, if you're in the US, you want to use those guys. But yeah. Let's get to the charts. Let's talk about what's going on here. So, what are we doing? Well, my friends, we have fallen out of this upwards channel, but pretty much this channel, you can see right here, see this channel was the bottom. Now, it's acting as the resistance. So, we have two patterns going on right now. What we have is a potential sideways parallel bull flag forming. Now, I just want to point out, the strongest type of bull flag is actually, believe it or not, a bull flag that goes downwards like this, right? When you have a bull flag where it's actually consolidating downwards, that's usually where you'll have the biggest move. And I know that seems weird. It doesn't seem to make any sense. But historically, if you look at the data, you tend to see the biggest moves. But just to point out, back here, we had a bull flag, a little one right here that was forming, and then we had another one, and then we had another one sideways consolidation. So the sideways ones also work as well. This is a very, very large one. If I switch it to the daily right here, you'll see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So I would say if you had 7, 8, and then you start Monday, if we're still in this range, and Monday, we start pumping to the upside, then I do think there's a good possibility that we do break out of this to the upside. If we do fall out of this come Monday or even Tuesday potentially, then I think there's a chance we go down and we revisit that CME futures gap, right? But having a look right here, again, we're still in no man's land and we are being rejected by the original upward sloping trend. You can see rejections here and rejections here. Now, it's possible that, right here, this would be by January... what is this? January 20. So, maybe by the end of the day here. Yeah, by the end of the day, possibly we could be up here. And then maybe we just break right out through both of those resistances. But as I said, I don't really take weekend price action too seriously because, the big volume is really during the week. So the weekends, you see these crazy moves and it'll just completely erase them literally come Monday. So just be very, very careful with that if you are trading over the weekend. We are having a CME futures gap still down here. It has not been closed. We have been consolidating. Do we have to close it immediately? No, we do not. But it would be the most likely out of the two scenarios that Bitcoin would come down to around that $20,000 level, 19,900, and close that, okay? And of course, if you guys do want to, if you do want to take these trades and you do want to learn how to trade, make sure you check out the tutorial popping up above. You guys know the drill if you've been watching. Tons of bonuses below. Take advantage of it in the bear market. But again, Bitcoin cannot breach this recent pivot high just before the crash. So, I'm not trying to be a bear here. This is a consolidation that could take us to higher levels, but we need to break above this level. We need to break above 21,500. We have to break above this, okay? Come down, have that retest, which would be a great opportunity for another long. If you guys want to learn, how to trade, just follow the channel. Again, I go over this every day. And that would be the area where you would take the long. And the next target would be $22,800 because that's this pivot high here, right? But we do not have that yet. So obviously, if we continue to fall to that downside, then again, I think we're going to close the gap, around that $19,900 level. We are still a little bit in the red. We are in the red on the money flow on the weekly, and we're still below the 200 weekly moving average. So again, we have to get above that in order to confirm a bullish trend. Now today, the stocks are having a little bit of an up day, but remember, nothing moves in a straight line. And until the S&P can actually break out of its downtrend, I think that Bitcoin is still going to have some difficulty because unfortunately right now, a lot of risk assets are trading the same. Now, I've said this time and time again, I do not think that Bitcoin is going to be traded like a risk asset forever. I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see Bitcoin decouple itself from stocks. It's not, stocks go up as a whole, Bitcoin goes up as a whole. No, I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to start doing its own thing, kind of like how gold has developed its own pattern of movements over time, right? DXY still falling under some resistance, this support flipping resistance as well. It's underneath its weekly moving average right here. This is the 50, right? And actually, I don't know if it's under the 200. We could actually just change that real quick just to see. I'm just curious. Of course it is, right? Because it's lower. It has to be. Oh, no, it's not. It's actually not. Oh, these are weekly. Oh, these are weeklies. I'm sorry. Excuse me, guys. Yes, it is under. Okay, yeah. So the dollar, sorry, I was wrong time frame. It happens. So yeah, the dollar is still quite weak, right? It's under the 200 and it's under this red resistance right here, dating all the way back to this area right here. So not looking too great for the dollar, guys. But here's an interesting story I wanted to talk about before we go. This is just sort of random, but it turns out that apparently speculation is mounting over whether FTX could reopen to users after the company's new CEO, bankruptcy expert John Ray II, said he is open to the idea. He says everything is on the table. If there is a path forward on that, then we will not only explore that, we will do it. According to Ray, FTX has already set up a task force to explore if FTX should be restarted and how it could happen. He explained to the Wall Street Journal that the issue has been brought up after some former FTX users have publicly praised the exchange and suggested a restart of it would be valuable. So I got a question for you guys. Number one, were you affected by FTX? Number one, I'm curious. And number two, if they reopened, would you use FTX? Would you trust FTX now that SBF is out of the picture? It's possible. I've seen anything happen, but man, that is a very, very, very difficult task to get that trust back, in my opinion. And I would not use it. I've never used it, actually. I've actually never used FTX. That's not true. That's not true. When FTX first came out, I used it a little bit for like a month or two, but the interface was really, really ugly and really bad. So I started using other, and I just kind of never went back. But so yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel again. Bitcoin's still sitting above that 200 daily. So thus far, as long as we can maintain above 19,500, we can still come down, close that gap, maintain above that. Then, short term bull run is not confirmed, but the bullish momentum may remain intact. Fall below that, and you risk falling back down to some of the previous pivots, 18.6, 18.1, right? That's it for me. Thank you for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. Hope you're having a wonderful, beautiful day. Get subscribed if you haven't. Make sure that you follow me on all my other socials. I'm posting everywhere lately. I'm posting on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Did I forget anything? Twitter. So anyway, follow me around the block and we'll have fun. I also have a free Telegram group if you guys want to join. So that's it for me. And always remember that I will never ask you for any funds. I do not have any paid services. If anyone reaches out to you claiming to be me, asking you for any kind of money, it's a scammer. I don't ask you guys for money. That's not what we do on the Crypto Zombie channel. Everything is free. Of course, we have links below if you want to support the channel. Greatly appreciated, but totally not necessary. You guys are awesome. And again, if you are going to, trade, be careful. Leverage is very, very risky. Do remember, though, that BitGet does have copy spot trading now. Pretty cool stuff. So that is a first in the industry. Check it out, popping up right here, right now. And until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.